USAC intercepted a radio transmission from a decaying orbit around Neptune. The source of this transmission has been identified as the Event Horizon.
Where's she been for the last 7 years?
That's what we're here to find out.
Did the ship brought back something with it, a life force of some kind?
What are you telling me, that this ship is alive?
Need eyes to see. Word. Reality is much, much worse.
And welcome back to the Movie Hero Network. This is Wheel of Movies, episode number 72. And tonight we are discussing 1997's Event Horizon in honor of the late, great Sam Neill. I am your host, Austin Pez Howell. And with me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Richie Goodacre, if he can get his phone squared straight. How's it going, Richie?
Yeah, I someone tried to ring me just as we're going live.
Of course, you got to put it on Do Not Disturb mode, brother. That's what that's for.
Yeah. No, we're going good. We're going good. Talking about Event Horizon, Sam Neill, and yeah, look, it's been a long time actually since I watched this, and yeah, good time. It should probably be in my rotation because this was a lot of fun, and very creepy, and we'll get to it. But yeah, I'm glad it's built a cult following. Because this movie shouldn't have bombed.
Yeah. It's following over the years, but we figured, we don't have a lot of guests, lately on Wheel of Movies, kind of used to, but we sort of weaned off of it. But if we're going to talk about Sam Neill, a very famous New Zealand actor, well, we know a New Zealander and somebody who might know a little about Sam Neill. Malcolm Lay, how's it going, Malcolm?
Yeah, no, it's going good, and yet Sam Neill was is one of my favorite actors of all time. And this is actually in my one true name as well, so it's just fitting because I love Event Horizon. I think it's a fantastic movie, and I think I've watched it many times since I first watched it. So.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a really fun one. And for anybody wondering, sometimes we just like to go off the beaten path here on Wheel of Movies. A lot of people, if somebody passes away and we do a tribute episode, for instance, we'll give an example of like Catherine O'Hara, right? And everybody's talking about, Beetlejuice or Home Alone and things like that. We went off the beaten path, the Best in Show, just a fun one. And then ironically enough, like 2 episodes later, as Richie knows, we spun Beetlejuice anyways. So we got to talk about her again, like a few episodes later. And our reasoning is that Jurassic Park is on that wheel, as Malcolm knows, like probably 20 times or something. So it'll probably come up eventually, just in due time, and then we'll talk about it then. But I, as a horror fan, I wanted to honor Sam's kind of horror pedigree, because I think he's kind of a low-key king of horror. He's got a lot of horror movies under his belt. He was not afraid to go back to the genre, even after he was kind of extra famous, after Jurassic Park, and I always appreciated that. So we chose Event Horizon, just a really fun, breezy space horror movie that we all seem to enjoy. But Richie, so what's your history with this movie, and maybe Sam Neill in general?
Yeah, I probably watched this movie for the first time when I probably shouldn't have. But like my parents are very laxed with me watching movies, so I didn't have, wasn't really strict when that came to that, and just like, oh yeah. I think I think it was at my dad's video store. I liked the look of the cover. I'm like, can you bring that home? And I he might have said, hey, it looks like, he might have like protested a little bit, but he's just like, screw it. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, so this was only my second watch, but yeah, Sam Neill in general, yeah, like obviously he's like, yeah, he's probably one of the most famous actors to come out of New Zealand. Probably, wouldn't say. Would you say ever, Malcolm? It's probably a argument to be made.
I mean, he's probably one of the most famous ones that didn't come out of Shorten Street. That's for sure. Anyway,
I mean, other than I guess Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, yeah.
I would say Sam Neill and Russell Crowe are probably the two most famous ones overall.
Yeah,
and then you have like other sort of famous character actors like Malcolm cites all the time, like Tamora Morrison or Cliff Curtis, some like more kind of character actor people, that are known, but maybe not as maybe known over there more than over here. But people know who, like, if you tell them Tamora Morrison is Boba Fett, things like that. Cliff Curtis, if you showed a picture to most film fans, they know who he is. But yeah, I think Russell Crowe and Sam Neill are kind of the two. I would imagine.
So yeah, I know for about, and yeah, just like, yeah, and he's sort of all over, like, he's all over Australian and New Zealand media, kind of just, just doing interviews. Seems like a really cool, it seems like a cool, down to earth kind of dude. He was like, very, very, very private kind of guy. And he spent most of his time when he was one filming, like, just at his winery and like. In his place in New Zealand, place called Alexandra, or I think Alexandra, I think. So yeah, he would do that. But yeah, no, and he would take on the, like, I just like that he take on these very diverse roles. Like, for example, there's a movie coming out called The Fox when he filmed, where he plays a foul-mouthed magpie, so where he just fucking swears all the time. It's like him, Jai Courtney, Emily Browning, Olivia Colman. So yeah, I know, and he just seems like a really cool dude. I think the first time I may have paid attention to him was like probably it probably was Jurassic Park, but maybe the first time I saw his face on something, it was probably like Dead Calm. But yeah, really amazing actor, and a big loss.
Yeah, for sure. Malcolm, what about you? Your history with this movie? Obviously, you're a fan of it, and just kind of your fandom of Sam Neill in general.
Yeah, I think the first time I watched Adventure Horizon probably about 10 years ago, because I think I watched it for like a list on ranking that I was doing at the time. And I've watched it a few times since then. It just sort of became one of my favorite movies. Weirdly enough, I also think Jurassic Park was the first time I actually saw Sam Neill in anything. But it's just, but he's just been like just been really good. Like, I remember when Jurassic Park 3 happened, like they pushed to have the world premiere in Dunedin, so it's kind of a cool thing for Dunedin to have like the world premiere. I wasn't able to go, but it was like I just remember sort of the octagon all blocked off and all that. Just big. It was a big thing, and just a lot of fun, and yeah. But just watching some like interviews, I saw an interview where it was like him sort of saying that how he wishes that like there was a world where there was like no war, no like arguing or anything, just like a nice peaceful world. Like I know I'm paraphrasing, but it's like it just like his views, and there's like, yeah, it's like that would be a good world to live in, just where no one's fighting wars and stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'd all appreciate that, I think, overall. Yeah. But no, he seemed like a good dude in a lot of interviews, and really nice guy, and a guy who was, appreciative of, fandom he got from some of his bigger movies, but I think he also enjoyed doing, the real acting projects as well. And he didn't have to do those big giant movies, and he didn't have to go back to horror either, but he always did, which I appreciated. As we'll kind of talk about tonight. And yeah, as far as Event Horizon, this might have been like the second thing I ever saw him in, really, outside of anything Jurassic Park related, because I know, obviously, like a lot of people, I saw Jurassic Park when I was a kid. I saw it on video. And then I do remember distinctly going to see Jurassic Park 3. I made like a trek on my bike to the local theater. I couldn't drive yet, but I made like a whole day out of it and locked my bike up, went to the premiere of that. But yeah, once I started renting horror movies, especially, this was one I rented pretty early. Became a fan of it, bought it on DVD. I have the Shout Factory Blu-ray now. They have a 4K out too, but this was the Shout Factory one. And I was excited at the time because I thought maybe we were going to get some of that lost footage that we'll talk about from this movie. I'll go into that in a little bit. But yeah, Sam Neill, always a kind of a comforting presence on screen. Just a really cool actor. But yeah, seemed like a great guy in real life. So we'll get kind of more into it here. So yeah, talking specifically about Event Horizon tonight, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, the other Paul Anderson, of course, not PTA, but Paul W.S. Anderson, who was coming off of Mortal Kombat at the time, which was a big hit for the studio with a budget of $20 million, made about 120. So he, at the time, that was some pretty big bucks in 95. So he got a chance to kind of do whatever he wanted. So he was given $60 million budget to do this movie, but had kind of a troubled production. Paramount, he was working with Paramount on this one, and they kind of wanted him to rush filming a little bit when Titanic was going to change its release date and really kind of dominate everything. So he was kind of rushed, especially in post-production. He originally submitted a 2-hour and 10-minute cut of the movie, which included a lot more gore and nasty scenes in this movie, as we'll talk about. The stuff that him and his B unit filmed that had to be cut out. Both he got pressure from the studio and from the ratings board to cut everything. They threatened the original cut of this movie with an NC-17. Hard to believe watching the movie that it would be like that, gory and whatnot, but the original cut did, and now that original cut does not exist anymore, as well as a lot of the footage that he shot for this movie. For instance, not to go into too much kind of graphic detail, but essentially the stuff that was removed was a lot more stuff from when they see the log from the previous crew. You kind of see some of the chaos stuff in that, on the bridge. But, in the movie, it's only like, it's like 15-20 seconds or so, and just flashes of stuff. There was a more extended sequence of like 2 or 3 minutes, really going into kind of what happened there. There was way more hell stuff. We only get like a very quick montage, in this movie of the people who are already kind of dead being, tortured, in the hell dimension and whatnot. Just kind of more Jason Isaac's death. We only kind of see the aftermath of it. You got to see a lot more of that death in the edit that was cut out. But yeah, the movie was threatened with an NC-17. He had to drastically cut a lot of the footage, and then the studio just made him cut down the cut, by about 35 minutes. So all that stuff got cut out, and he put that footage. All that footage went into storage, apparently in some kind of Transylvania salt mine, from what I could tell, reading online. A lot of this footage and these negatives and things like that. And then when they eventually found them a few years back, they were just in rough shape. It was kind of unsalvageable. So Paul W.S. Anderson has talked about how that footage will probably never resurface. I got excited when Scream Factory was going to get a hold of it, because they're usually pretty good at digging up like alternate cuts. They ended up finding a cut of helped Clive Barker with his Nightbreed director's cut. If anybody knows about that, they ended up finding just like a negative in like a random storage room, film storage room, back in like 2014, and we're able to restore that. But unfortunately, any hopes of getting sort of an extended director's cut with all that extra footage, extra gory, unrated stuff, will probably never surface. But needless to say, there was graphic stuff, and I won't go into too detail of people getting let's just say, sodomized and getting teeth broken out and drilled into. They had real amputees to do stuff where people were getting limbs ripped off, like people who didn't have arms. They were like pulling off fake arms and things like that. Just all kinds of really nasty stuff that they filmed, including sexual stuff with porn actors that they actually filmed and we're going to cut around. Yeah, that's how deep they went with some of this stuff. But all of that got removed and killed in the cuts, so it just never came to surface. So I don't know. You guys interested in this? In a potentially 2-hour, insane cut? I don't know, of this movie.
I'm curious. That's why you could probably get into it. That's probably why I get into it, because that there was talks about maybe doing a prequel and exploring more of what happened on the to the passengers on the other ship, on the ship, and so then I wish that came to pass, because the story that I want to know. I want to know more about that.
Well, put a button on that. There is potentially hope of an expanded story about this as far as future Event Horizon stuff. We'll talk about that. There's some talks out there. We'll get to it. But Malcolm, a 2-hour NC-17 cut of Event Horizon. I don't know.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in it, and just to see what it'd be like, whether or not it helps or harms the original, the factual movie. It's hard to tell, but it'll be. It sounds like it'll be fun to at least watch and say they've seen it.
Yeah, right. Definitely. Anyways, the movie did eventually come out August 15th, 1997. Like I said, a budget of $60 million and a box office disappointment, only made 42 worldwide. So didn't really make its money back in the box office, although Paramount has said that the movie did well in video rentals, and also did well on DVD when it eventually came out on DVD in the early 2000s. So, and that was in the time where you could make some money back on rentals and on DVD sales, things like that. That's been talked about, kind of a lost revenue stream that doesn't get talked about as much nowadays. But I don't have much. Most of the behind the scenes stuff you'll see online, or the tidbits, are mostly about that lost footage and all the things they shot, and kind of the crunch production and how the movie was kind of cut down overall. There was a combination, of course, of some practical set design and things like that. They filmed in England, and we'll talk about some CGI that doesn't quite hold up, in certain sequences. That 1997 CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it looks pretty rough. We'll talk about it. But Paul Anderson, he envisioned the movie as kind of a haunted house in space. He wanted it to be different from Alien, not some creature running around killing everybody, but more of like a haunted house kind of psychological horror movie in space. And I think it kind of sets it apart from Alien, at least in that aspect.
Yeah, I miss. It's a good nostalgia trip, because I miss that when Paul W.S. Anderson was considered a competent director and made good movies. This was probably before Mila Jovovich was in everything he did. But yeah, this is I appreciate it. It's cool. It's a cool idea, cool concept. I know. You really did the concept, and I think it worked, and I'm glad it made its money back on DVD revenue, because that kind of stream was it mattered back in the day. I think that's how Fight Club kind of made its cult following.
Yeah, well, if anybody wants to get a quick condensed version of how that used to help studios on the back end, Matt Damon, oddly enough, when he was on Hot Ones, the wing show, if anybody's seen that one, where they're eating the hot wings, he had a little he got asked a question about DVDs and whatnot, and kind of broke down how, he was in different movies that maybe, kind of underperformed at the box office, but would do quite well with like DVD sales. He said, Good Will Hunting did okay, at the box office, things like that, but like sold well on DVD, stuff like Dogma, there's like certain movies that he would do, him and Ben, in the 90s or early 2000s, and that would do quite well on DVD, even if they didn't quite, overperform at the box office, but it could save them, and they would do very, very well. And Richie is somebody whose dad, he said, owned a video store. I mean, video rentals were a big deal, in the 80s and 90s. And if you had a really strong video rental and you got enough of a following from people renting movies, it could even warrant a franchise out of something that wasn't a franchise, because of support.
Yeah, definitely. There's heaps examples of that over the years of people that have developed a cult-like following just through word of mouth, or the DVD sales where it's like, okay, and then it spawned a franchise out of that. So it's cool. I know. I wish there's a bit more of a tell now, and now it's just like box office receipts, I think it made. I think people. It seemed people watched it. It was in their in the top 10 on streaming, or
it was number 1 on Netflix for 2 weeks, so maybe it did well on streaming or something. Yeah.
So and so it's like it's a bit more of a. I don't know, it just feels a bit more of a gamble. So it's cool. It's cool at that. I like it back in the day. It was a bit more of an indicator as to where things stood. So
Well, speaking of the box office, just real quick before we get into the actual movie, some of the things that if you went to a multiplex, you could have checked out at the same time you were checking out Event Horizon. One of the big movies at the time was Air Force One. So if you want to see Harrison Ford's Die Hard on a plane, you can go see Air Force One. The Mel Gibson movie Conspiracy Theory was actually a pretty big hit around this time.
That was Julia Roberts. Was that Julia Roberts? I can't remember. It was that. I'm pretty sure it was Mel Gibson. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts, Patrick Stewart, I think, is in it. Oddly enough. So, we got Spawn. Speaking of bad CGI, Spawn in 1997, a movie that has a cult following, but is not great. I've tried to like that movie. I can't
remember. And they've tried to they've tried to get that off the ground again, but I don't know if it's gonna happen.
George of the Jungle, Brendan with up and coming Brendan Fraser.
That's probably got a cult. I would argue that's a cult following as well, even though it's popular back in the day. But it's probably got now as well. I like the first one a lot.
Yeah, no, the first one's goofy and funny. Men in Black had come out 2 months earlier, but was still rocking at the box office. That movie was a monster hit at the time, so still hanging around. Copland, the Sylvester Stallone dramatic vehicle that got him some attention, was in the box office. Movie called Picture Perfect, Contact, with Jodie Foster. You got G.I. Jane with Demi Moore. And then just a few other noteworthy ones that were almost out of the box office but still hanging around. Good Burger, Face Off, and one of your favorites, Richie, Nothing to Lose, was in the box office at this time. So.
Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of money, but
Yeah, no, not quite. But I mean, we didn't know how good we have it. I mean, you went to a thing, you could see Air Force One, Men in Black, Copland, Contact, Face Off, all in a weekend if you wanted to. We didn't know how good we had it, Richie. We really did.
Just quickly, I know you said that Air Force One's like a Die Hard on a plane. You've probably seen that, but like the calling like mutant that new Jason Statham movie Mutiny Die Hard on a boat, and that's literally the poster.
Oh yeah,
well, the poster is basically Die Hard. It's like tricky not to share adventure, which is the same.
40 stories of sheer terror or whatever. No, they're leaning into it. That's fine. I don't really mind that. I mean,
that's fine.
The only problem is there already was Die Hard on a boat. It's called Under Siege with Steven Seagal. But anyways, that's a whole other topic for another day. Let's get into the movie, and we'll talk some more about Sam Neill specifically, of course, as we go along. Event Horizon, that is the name of the ship that we find out, and basically the plot of this movie is that we've got this rescue team that's going to go. They've uncovered a distress signal that was from a ship that they thought was lost 7 years prior, called the Event Horizon, the name of the movie, and they've got to go basically investigate and see if they can figure out what happened. But yeah, we've got this rescue team of Lewis and Clark, and this movie, by the way, takes place in the distant future of 2047, which seemed like a long time in 1997, but that's only like a little over 20 years from now. That's not that long. 20 years ago was 2006. It's really not that long ago. And so before you know it, we're gonna be in 2047. So and we get some text that says they started some space travel. They got a colony on the moon in like 2017 or 2015 or something like that. There was a colony on the moon.
Isn't it what Elon Musk is trying to do now?
Yeah, because same thing with the Mars stuff, because it says like 2032 they start mining on Mars and they've got colonies on Mars. And then we're now in 2047, and the Event Horizon was the first kind of deep exploration vehicle they sent out kind of into outer space, and it got lost behind Neptune somewhere. So that's where the signal went dead, essentially. And they've built these gravity drives, and Sam Neill plays Dr. Weir, who essentially has made this drive that can like fold space time. And what's funny is that he's doing this presentation. He's kind of trying to explain, the wormhole stuff and kind of the folding space time, to the crew. And he does the same thing they do in Interstellar. So Christopher Nolan ripped off Paul W.S. Anderson. Forever know that. Because Sam Neill does the thing where he folds the paper and sticks the pencil, through the paper. The doctor, the black gentleman, that doctor in Interstellar, he does the exact same thing. He's like, think of it as this: we fold it over, you punch a hole straight through the. He does the same thing Sam Neill does in this movie. So
yeah, it's fun, and I like there's that the I can't remember the character's name, the black guy. I like how he's like all throughout the movie he gets constantly fed up with like the Sam Neill's sciencey talk, like talk sciencey shit to me. Just speak English, motherfucker.
That's Cooper. Well, speaking of Interstellar, Cooper is the name of Matthew McConaughey's character. So the more you think about it, Nolan just ripped off all of Event Horizon. The whole thing, character names, science presentations, the whole nine. I mean, really
very on the nose. And then like when he's showed it, he's ripping up paper. It was like a dirty. What would be called like a dirty magazine almost. And Jason Stein's like, that's mine. That's my prop. What are you doing? It's funny seeing Jason Isaac there now. You're like, wow, that's a very young Jason Isaacs. But yeah, that's how time works. But yeah, I'm like, that's the dude from Harry Potter.
And he was in kind of a space movie the year after this, although he didn't actually go to space, because he's in Armageddon. He plays the guy that's like super smart in Armageddon. The Quincy guy. I mean, we should say, a few of these, the other cast members here, because as I mentioned, Sam Neill plays kind of Dr. Weir, sort of their scientist that's along for the ride, but he's not really a part of the Lewis and Clark kind of rescue team. He's just kind of the science advisor, because he designed the Event Horizon ship and then the drive. Lawrence Fishburne is Captain Miller, and he's great. I think Lawrence Fishburne's so good in this movie. He's one of my favorite like horror characters, just because he breaks he doesn't fall into the tropes of like doing the dumb character decisions. He's a fairly smart character who, he wants to know, he wants to cut through BS all the time. He always wants to like press people on like, what's going on, what they saw, what they heard, whatever. He wants to get to the issue. He doesn't like, he will accept that people saw weird stuff, but he doesn't panic immediately. But then as soon as he sees pretty concrete evidence that like the crew is dead and some fucked up stuff is going on, he's like, screw the ship, we're out of here. Let's go.
We've got to stay here for the mission. We got to.
He's like, nope.
It's like, the crew's dead. What the fuck? We can't complete our mission. And that's when, even before that, when we'll get to it, that's when he's like, oh, okay, maybe this Sam Neill character is not there, not the greatest person.
But he's awesome. Malcolm, what do you think of Lawrence Fishburne in these movies? He's one of my favorite kind of captains in a movie. He's great.
I think Lawrence Fishburne is just great as a captain. I think it's just the way like he sort of like works out what's happening and then tries to stop it. I think it's just fantastic. And it's always refreshing seeing a horror movie where it's not just dumb people doing dumb shit. Like it's always good seeing smart characters actually try to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, Richie and I have talked about this before. It's one of my tropes that I hate in horror movies is when you advance the plot just because of dumb characters doing dumb things, But it's like you can have characters making pretty good decisions for the most part, but have the entity or the villain or the other people, thwarting them or being one step ahead of them, and sabotaging their efforts. That's fine because at least then we don't blame the characters, for being stupid. And that's okay because Lawrence, they tried to leave several times during this movie, when the stuff hits the fan, but either Sam Neill or the ship possessing somebody or whatever, sabotages something, to where they kind of, screw up the plans and what's going to happen. So I appreciate that. It's like you can present the problems, from an external force, without making your characters look stupid and yelling at them for being dumb. I think that the only person who kind of does one dumb thing is the kind of kid looking character. What's his name? The Justin character.
Justin. Who almost pays for it. Yeah. That guy. I can't remember who he's played by, but the kid.
Yeah, it's Jack Noseworthy, who the only other thing I really know him from, and he's been in a decent amount of things. I know him from Undercover Brother. He's a Chris Kattan's little assistant in that movie, who's tooling around that movie. But yeah, Justin's really the only character who he starts touching things he's not supposed to touch, and he ends up getting sucked into that kind of void, for a little bit, and then getting pulled back, and he kind of ends up being the first guy to really kind of get sort of taken over. But it leads to a pretty gnarly decompression scene where he gets into an airlock and he's about to be decompressed, and Fishburne's trying to tell him curl up into a ball, blow the air out of your lungs, but as he's being messed up, there's blood shooting out of his eyes, and he's just convulsing all over the place. It's pretty fun. I enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, but you stay calm.
No, I'm not going to stay calm. I'm about to get decompressed in space. It's kind of hard to do that. Stay calm. But yeah, we got this mission. The Lewis and Clark, gets there. The ship is there. It's intact, and I like the design of the actual ship. I think the ship looks kind of cool. It almost looks like a tadpole or something. It's kind of got this big head and kind of almost like a tail. This long stretch in the middle that we'll see this kind of tunnel, sort of the connector part that does that. We'll see that's important as a lifeboat kind of thing later. It's got a very Aliens feel in that they're going to investigate something that happened. Everybody's missing or dead. They don't know what, and it's we're exploring, the ship, and then Sam Neill's even watching the body cameras, from the thing. It's very Aliens in its construction, where he's talking to them while they're kind of turning the corners and trying to find evidence of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like every sort of space horror from that point on is going to be somewhat inspired by Alien. So there's going to be that trope, but I got that vibe as well. But if something's if something's inspired by that, that means that's a thing that was effective and it worked. And so it's effective and it's kind of cool here. So it's I think. If you're gonna pull from somewhere, you pull from one of the best to do it. So
yeah. Malcolm, what do you think of the setup here and kind of how they exploring the ship? And do you remember the first time you saw it? If you knew what had actually gone on, or did you think it was a creature, or they were just still going to be on the ship, or what? As far as, do you remember the first time you saw it?
I thought the whole setup was initially, I think the first time I saw it, I thought, it's probably going to be a creature, an alien or something. It's just one of those ones where it's that's generally what you'd naturally summoned, and that's why I'm sort of glad that it was like it ended up not being that. It ended up being something much more deeper than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I thought the setup was actually really good because it leads you to think it's something, then you find out it's something else, and I think that's refreshing rather than like, oh yeah, it's this, and then it ends up being exactly what you thought it was in the first place.
Right. Well, I mean, and what's unique about it is, yeah, like if it was some sort of creature or alien or something, again, it would be this, physical entity that you can stop. But I think it's always kind of scarier when it's something that's like, possessing people and taking them over and, making them lose their minds. And yeah, we find out that this gravity drive essentially that Dr. Weir invented sort of, folded out this dimension, opened kind of a portal, if you will, to this kind of hell dimension. And yeah, that's what happened is it took over this previous crew. Yeah, we don't get to see exactly what happened to them. They kind of tease it for a while. That they have these audio recordings they were able to pick up, where everybody's kind of screaming and there's a little bit of Latin, kind of being spoken, things like that. But then we see a little bit of it later when they were able to kind of recover some of the footage. Yeah, we just see this footage of them kind of going crazy and they're hurting each other and they're everybody's bloody and going nuts and just murdering everything in sight.
But basically, it makes you hallucinate your worst fears or worst memories. And then and then you think you're seeing that vision, and then that will lead to that leads to people sort of downfall, and it leads to their kind of the decline in their psyche and quite and some gnarly deaths.
Yeah, well, Dr. Weir keeps seeing visions of he had a wife that committed suicide in a bathtub, who then he's seeing her without the eyes, and I don't know if like she did something to her eyes as well, if that's just foreshadowing to what he's going to do to his own eyes, as he gets taken over. But yeah, Lawrence Fishburne seeing this like former crew member from another crew that he had to like leave behind that got burned up, in an accident. Sort of thing that you guys guilt over.
There was who's the other chick? There was another chick in the.
Talking about there was Stark is kind of the first officer, and then Peters is the medical tech.
Peters, she keeps seeing visions of her son or something happened to her son.
Yeah, and again, some of the stuff might have been expanded in that longer cut because we don't really get what happened with the son. We got that he had some kind of accident with his legs because his legs are all torn up, and apparently there was a longer shot I read in the extended version where his legs were being like eaten by maggots, but they had to cut the maggots out because it was making people sick in the test audience with the fake legs they had with real maggots crawling all over them. So
what, test audience ruin everything, don't they? Right?
Yeah, they ruin everything. It's like that stuff's gnarly and if it gets a reaction out of you, shouldn't that be a good thing? If they're getting repulsed, I don't know.
Grow a stomach, man.
Yeah. And then do we ever see what Jason Isaacs? I'm trying to remember what he his vision is or something. I don't know if we see a lot.
I'm not sure exactly what his vision is. I know he is sort of traumatized over something because he's the one that gets into. Like he ends up getting to almost a fist fight with Sam Neill at one point. So
because he doesn't actually get killed by or possessed by the the ship or whatever. He just gets flambéed by Dr. Weir, and he gets like a Hellraiser kill. Like he's like strung up by hooks and wires, and he's cut open with his guts hanging out.
I think it's called like a vibe. I think the Wikipedia had a name for it. A vibisection. It's basically where you take all your internal organs out. And you're basically just you're basically just hung up, and you're just basically just a skin.
It's like what they do with deer skins. If you cut open a deer, if you see hunters cut open deers and yank everything out, but leave the deer the meat sack hanging there. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. So it's pretty gnarly, but you only see you see him getting kind of trussed up on he gets choked out, and he's on he's on this like on this table, and then he gets cut open, and then he sort of just dies, and then and then you see the aftermath. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's an abrupt cut, and again, I think there was more to his death in the longer cut. Like you actually had way more of the doctor sort of like doing essentially surgery on him, and taking stuff out. I think there was even something in the description of one of them that I found where he was like pulling his intestines out through his mouth, like it was even pretty gnarly,
Oh, God.
which is like, yeah. So you can see maybe why they were like, yeah, I don't know about that. This isn't that type of movie. Because funny enough, I also read something where the Paramount executives, when they gave Paul Anderson like this money, thought they were going to get they knew they were going to get some kind of horror based, sci-fi thing, but they thought they were going to get like Star Trek with a little bit of horror, and they just ended up getting like a gruesome, a gruesome haunted house movie, overall.
Yeah, it does seem like it's like. Yeah, like I'm usually like pretty like pro gore if it makes sense. Like obviously Evil Dead Burn. I like Evil Dead Burn because fucking it just turns it up to 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like it just feels like maybe that sort of level of gore comes out of nowhere, and you can't really be surprised if they're like, hey man, like you're gonna have to cut this down, or you're gonna get NC-17 rating. Like like you're gonna I kind of. Like I see where the studios, it's not really cool to be on the studio side, especially in 2026. But back then, I'm like, I could see where they're coming from. He's like, yeah, man, like, that's not gonna. I don't know if it's gonna if you want to make the most of your, box office, and you want more people to see this. I don't know if that's gonna fly.
Malcolm, any favorite kind of scenes of the kills or some of the gnarliness in general of the movie?
I mean, for me, I quite like the scenes like they were sort of showing the trailers. Like, I mean, the rear going, you won't need your eyes. And I think that's just not a really sort of gruesome scene. Just really shows the sort of savagery of this whole thing. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to take your eyes. It's like you're not going to need them anymore, but it's just one that really showed the brutality of the movie. I think it's just a really fun one.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you talked about that sequence, and that was the one that I talked about kind of got cut down, is that quick montage when Sam Neill is like confronting, Lawrence Fishburne, and he's like, let me show you, some of the things. And we see like Justin, who's already been killed, kind of getting, tortured. He's like strung up, he's got like wires going through his arms and, blood everywhere. And I think you even see the medical chick, the Peters, in there briefly, something like that. Cause she gets kind of a nasty, weird kill where she like falls onto that grating and her body almost kind of like half explodes. It's kind of cool
because she's seeing hallucinations of her son, and she's like sort of walking, chasing after him, and then she sort of like kind of like doesn't pay attention to her surroundings almost, and then she just falls. She falls off like down this, she just takes a plummet, and then just almost like just almost like her body almost explodes on impact, and then it's like. Yeah.
No, it's kind of the way she just kind of like kerthump, like kind of hits that stuff, and then it's pretty gnarly the way she hits and just kind of almost explodes there. It's pretty great. But we could talk about sort of Sam Neill and his arc. Where it seems like he doesn't fight it too much when the ship kind of takes him over. He doesn't put up much of a fight. He's kind of the one catalyst who kind of just falls into it almost immediately,
I'd make the argument that he was kind of a villain from the start.
Yeah, kind of. I there's an argument to be made that maybe he's like already possessed from the beginning, because we see him, dreaming about his wife, from the start almost, because that's what we kind of open on with him after that, then waking up, in the sort of sleep chamber or whatever. But he could be the one that's just sort of, I guess, maybe feeding more bodies to this thing, to a degree.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made there.
Yeah, and even but before he was like fully possessed and gouge out his eyes, he was the one that was like, no, we need to stay say, need to stay on the ship and do this thing. Oh, why is this thing? You said this, this would happen, and it's not. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know.
He wants to get on the ship like immediately, and Lawrence Fishburne's like, no, we have to like make sure there's not an alien. Basically, without saying much, he has to be like, we got to make sure there's not like an alien running around, ready to kill us around the corner. You know what I mean? Like, let us clear the ship safety wise first. And he's like insisting on like getting on the ship and like running around, almost like it's calling to him, like he's got to get there immediately, as fast as possible. Yeah.
So I think he was. Yeah, it was just like him being possessed was just like him kind of just like not like being very deciding to not be like I don't know, more obvious. It's like, no, fuck it. I'm just not gonna hide it anymore. But yeah, I think he was a villain from the start.
Yeah, maybe Malcolm, was he a villain from the very start?
I mean, there's definitely a good argument there for that, because like just for the fact like there would have been like very reasonable why he wants to be on that and the crew to check out the ship, and so it's like so I think it makes absolute sense for him to be a villain from the start, and there's like everything that he does, like it's just one of those. It's never really been like, oh yeah, he doesn't really know much about the ship. It's like I think he knows more than he's letting on, and all that. So yeah,
no, and I think he's ready to like even get in there and he wants to get on the ship so he can just kick that drive back on and like fully maybe open it even more, to anybody that might be passing by, or something, or just attract even more, bystanders, if you will, to the dimension, like kind of fully. So, but I wanted to shout out. He talked about his makeup on the movie, because he's got kind of two different almost sets of makeup in here. You get the one where kind of initially where he's already like kind of stabbed his eyes out and it's pretty cool, where they kind of have glazed it over, with some latex and stuff. But yeah, I dig that whole scene where he's like sitting in the chair, he spins around and Fishburne's like, what the fuck have you done to yourself, kind of a thing. And he's like talking about how where we're going, we don't need eyes, almost like where we're going we don't need roads, where we're going we don't need eyes to see.
I got I almost said, when he said that, I was almost like, I had Doc in my head. Like, we don't need, he looks like he looks like like Harvey Dent, Two-Face, like stuff.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, he's got a little. If you just did the half of his face, it would certainly look like that, yeah. And you know what? He would have made a better Harvey Two-Face than Tommy Lee Jones, maybe.
He would have.
Yeah, I mean, with that, and then he said this full. Body stuff that we see later, in the gravity drive room took, he said, 8 hours to do, and that's this stuff right here. Like, that's pretty gnarly, man. Kudos to Sam, because this was all makeup. This wasn't CGI stuff. The guy who was on fire was CGI, but he was in the makeup chair for 8 hours. Doing this, and we don't even get a whole lot of shots of it, because I think that was another thing the ratings board told him to cut down, was the shots of him, because they just thought it was kind of too disturbing. But I think it looks awesome. I appreciate practical makeup like this and people who are willing to do that. Kudos to Sam.
Man, it's like he's got more patience than I can imagine sitting there for 8 hours.
Especially
This generation. I'm like, and back then you wouldn't have your phone to play on.
Most people back then, they would either just have to listen to music, or they said they would watch like old TV shows, or on the TV, or listen to audiobooks or whatever, whatever they could do to kind of pass the time. Because now it's like, oh, maybe you could pop an earbud in and listen to something, at least. But you didn't have really that luxury. But he said that also this sequence in that gravity drive room, because there's all kinds of fire going everywhere, so there was that. But he was essentially almost naked for like these sequences. He had like no clothes on for this thing. And he said the place they were filming it in, the set, was super cold, like where it was, because they had to keep it cool because of the lights and everything, as much as they could. But so even with the fires, it was like freezing in there. And so he would have to, then film these scenes where he's got no clothing whatsoever on. At least Lawrence Fishburne had like the flight suit, and all that kind of stuff on. But yeah, in between takes, he was having to like run over to like tower heaters and just go sit in front of heaters. But he couldn't even go sit in front of heaters for too long because it would melt the melt the thing. Yeah, they had to keep it cold so they could keep the makeup, the latex from melting. So again, kudos to Sam for being committed to the craft, man. That he's an OG.
Yeah.
That dude's good, man.
Yeah, so it's almost, he's probably glad that his they didn't do a sequel. You need to like maybe potentially need to come back. It's like, I'm not doing the latex scene again. Oh man, I'm not doing that either. I was put up, I did it for you once. I don't know if I can do it again. I don't know if I can do it again and again. But no, that is I admire the the commitment to art, because I'm a lesser man, and I'd probably be like, oh look, how about a couple of hours? I'll give you a couple of hours.
Right.
Yeah. But 8 hours is that's a lot in those conditions. So.
But Malcolm, what do you think about Sam's overall performance, and kind of especially the stuff at the end here where he's kind of full on crazy, once he's fully taken over?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we've said this in the past about other movies, and we're definitely going to say it a few times on Sunday with Rankin in there. And that is he's really shot. He really shines for his crazy, over the top performances, especially in horror and stuff. And this is not an exception. It's I think he's really great, and it's just I think it is when he goes full crazy. I think it's just fantastic the way he sort of goes all ham and that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think he also, to his credit, I think he knows what movie he's in. He knows he's in kind of like a higher budget B horror movie, and I think he leans into it. Like, you can tell, I think he's having fun, in the sequence where he spins around in the chair and he's kind of delivering his monologue, about the ship, and it's calling us and things like that. Like, you can tell he almost has a smile on his face, like he's having fun, kind of delivering those lines, and kind of going full into it, because, we have the running gag about how, if Sam Neill loses his mind in a horror movie, you're going to have a good time. It's this one, it's Possession, and it's I actually rewatched just a little while ago. Rhonda had never seen it. We watched In the Mouth of Madness, which that movie rips, by the way. That movie's great. If you haven't seen it, I hope that one comes up. I'm sure it will on Sunday, Malcolm, because the John Carpenter movie, that movie's great, and he's really good in it. And no, but he's also kind of losing his mind and losing his sanity in that one too. But yeah, I appreciate that Sam was always willing to. It wasn't necessarily like ham it up to a degree. I just think he, depending on what kind of horror movie it was, or, what the story was, he wasn't afraid to like play into the tone of the movie, or sort of, play into the themes, and he knew what movie he was in, and he wasn't trying to be above the material. Like, he's with the material and adds to it.
Yeah, I think he's very versatile in that way. He can do that. He can. He knows the assignment. And he can do that for like Event Horizon, but then he can slip back into maybe a grouchy, nihilistic, but also very warm and likable guy, and like Hunt for the Wilder People. You know what I mean? Like a very It's just like it's just a he can match the vibe of the film. So I think he had a real talent of like knowing what the director wanted out of his performance. So yeah.
Malcolm, any thoughts on? Have you seen some of his other horror movies and whatnot?
I've seen In the Mouth of Madness Possession and that from when they appeared on the later series, recently. And I think they all work. Because I've just been watching some of his really early Australian movies as well, like Death and Brunswick, who he plays a really sort of it's not so much psychotic like Adventure was, but it's like he's this kind of schmarmy sort of guy who just seems like a really nice guy, but ends up being a killer and all that. Just a fascinating role and all that. And just and I think it's just the way Sam Neill can go from very versatile, from Alan Grant to Runway to Mouth of Madness to the others. It's just he can switch it up very there. And last thing I was actually going to say that I meant to mention this earlier. And and it was actually because of Sam Neill. That's the reason that the Australian flag on his uniform has the original patch instead of the Union Jack, because that's how he thought he thinks the Australian flag would look like in 2047. Whether or not that actually happens, it's 20 years from now. We'll find out.
Well, if you guys want to be, accurate to this movie, get on it. You know what I'm saying? That's all. That's on you.
I don't want to be pessimistic, but as a guy that's living here, hopefully, let's just have, okay, I'm just, I want that to be true, but just, we'll see what happens.
And just to kind of get to sort of the wrap up of the movie, because I mean, the movie again is not heavy on like plot beats per se. It's very kind of, they get there, they check it out, this dimension, takes some of them over, they start to knock them off one by one, whether by taking them over and making them sort of commit suicide, or making them again chase after things that aren't there, get into various situations. We kind of whittle the cast down. Cooper seems like he gets blown out of the ship like twice and still makes it back both times. That'd be badass. He's pretty great.
I was going to say, this movie's progressive in a way because a black guy survives.
Yeah, he survives, and Lawrence Fishburne, you'd think he'd be the one to survive, but he really doesn't. But he sacrifices himself. He makes it through the whole movie at least, and again, is a smart, leader character. So again, that's pretty progressive for '97. Yeah, and you have the other guy, and I want to say actually, I think I read something that Cooper character was another like test audience thing where they liked him a lot in the test, scores. And so they let him kind of have a bigger role and have a little more to do. So, he's kind of a badass the way, kind of he gets blown out, but then he's like, I got to do the air tanks. And here I come, motherfuckers. And he flies back in. It's pretty great.
He's like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. All he does is kind of drop F-bombs in this movie, but he's a fun character. He has a lot of that's by the way, the actor's name is it's Richard T. Jones. So he's a character actor. He's mostly done the last 10 or 15 years a lot of TV. He's been recurring kind of a TV actor mostly, but he's done some other movies.
Is it Brandon T. Jones? He's related to him?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that. It could be not as far as I can tell, but at least on his Wikipedia page. But he's a Godzilla veteran, by the way. He's an Army captain in the 2014 one, so shout out to him for being a Godzilla veteran. But
is this a rare movie where the three main people on the poster on the cover actually die in the film?
Well, they don't survive. And two of the sub characters are the ones because it's Cooper and Stark that actually kind of survived the movie. And like you said, kind of progressive because it's got a female and a black guy are the ones who kind of survive. But we should say how they kind of first Neill sabotages the Lewis and Clark. He ends up tearing a big hole in it and it ends up kind of exploding overall. And then they've got to get the horizon and do the lifeboat gimmick, but of course, in order to do that, they've got to blow up the middle section with the self-destruct type thing, and that's where Fishburne kind of sacrifices himself to do that as he gets in a fight with Sam Neill and sees the visions of the hell and whatnot. And he's like, screw all that, I'm just gonna blow it all up and then we're just gonna blow it all to hell and you're coming with me.
And then you get the classic villain thing when they're defeated, like probably started from Star Wars, the whole no
as they click the button or flip the switch or whatever. It's a very like movie thing of just like no, like don't do it, and they flip it. So that's always fun. They go on the lifeboat and then there's kind of a debated ending. Malcolm, are they still trapped by the horizon as Dr. Weir says that nobody ever really escapes the event horizon, because they do kind of a tease of Sam Neill in one of the rescue outfits, but then they sort of do a wake up and then there's an ominous sort of door closing. I don't know, Malcolm, is this all in their heads? Are they still on the horizon, maybe being psychologically tortured with this?
I mean, I'd imagine they probably are still on the horizon. being tortured, I don't think no one ever leaves.
Yeah, I mean that's what he says. We can see, but Richie, did they get out or no? I don't know.
To this day, they're still there. Hope you, hope you, you know what, hope you're doing okay there, characters. But no, I think it was, look, probably left open for a reason. Maybe they were, maybe they're teasing a sequel. I don't know, but like also, but I like the question ending. I do think that I do tend to sort of err on the side of like, I think they didn't actually escape, and they're
because if you think about it, they're on the lifeboat part, but they're on the horizon still. They're still on that ship. You know what I mean? It's not like they got on a different ship. They're still there. And even with Sam Neill, didn't he get blown out of the ship, but then he shows back up, in front of Lawrence Fishburne. So he's kind of this entity now that can show up whenever. So it's not like unlikely that he could still be on the lifeboat messing with them, of course.
So I seem to think that like maybe technically we see that those two survivors, but really there's probably no survivors. So so I tend to think that they didn't escape, but it's probably just left up to interpretation. Whether they were going to follow that up or not, it's like probably never know.
Well, and a good way to torture them would be like, hey, you're saved by the rescue team. Oh wait, no, you're not. Haha. Like that's a good way to kind of psychologically torture somebody, right? After thinking you're gonna get rescued.
I guess is that a good lead into like what you're going to mention that?
So what I was going to mention is that there is still talks, even as recently as like 2025, of Adam Wingard, who, if anybody knows, he started out in horror movies. And he has been wanting to do a TV adaptation of Event Horizon, like a TV series. What he wanted to do is essentially, tell a longer story of that first voyage of the Event Horizon crew and what happened to them, and maybe even then have an addendum season of a retelling of the Lewis and Clark rescue, and do like sort of a multi-season TV show, but expanding on the tech of the movie, the exploration, and then of course, the eventual kind of hell dimension stuff. And he's been wanting to do this, with we'll never get another movie, I don't think, but it was in development by Paramount Television and Amazon, kind of a joint venture. Adam Wingard, who, if you need some references, he did like he started out in horror. He did like You're Next and The Guest and Blair Witch, the Blair Witch sequel, things like that. And then he did the first two Godzilla versus Kong movies. So he's done big stuff too. And then he's got a movie coming out this September called Onslaught. It looks like kind of a half action horror movie, about some super soldier that looks like a slasher villain, something like that. I've seen the trailer for that. He's got some kind of horror and action pedigree and whatnot. But he wants to do this like television follow-up with Paramount, and he wants to get it done. And yes, somebody even asked him about it a year or two ago and said it's definitely in the works. He just has to get out of the Godzilla bubble that he's in right now. And I think he is, because he's not directing Supernova. That's a different director.
And coincidentally, one of Sam Neill's last movies is going to be Supernova. He's in Supernova.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So Adam Wingard doesn't directly have involvement in that one, but but Sam was in that one. But he says they have a great sort of scripted, some scripts already laid out for the actual series. So maybe after this Onslaught movie, maybe he'll get back on that. He wants to refocus his attention towards that. So there is hope that we could get more of an extended story of Event Horizon in TV form. So that could be interesting. And if you do it on streaming and rate it properly, you can do, again, the horror elements. I don't think they'll do the as extreme stuff that Paul Anderson filmed for this movie, but I think they could still do some gnarly stuff if they wanted to.
I think there's enough cult following there to actually see that through the TV show. I think if they did a movie, I don't know if that it depends how they would market it, and I don't know if the cult following is there enough to, depending on the budget too. I'm not confident, especially in this day and age, whether they would keep the budget like to a small degree. I still think it could have potential to bomb. So I think TV show is probably the way to go. You can tell more in a TV format. So yeah, I have you hear these stories of like, oh no, this is going to be in development hell, that this will be a TV show. Oh no, it's going to be a movie, TV show. But I have I'm finally getting Crystal Lake, which is was supposed to be a TV show a long time ago. But if there's enough passion there for by a filmmaker or TV series maker, I think it will happen. And I think there's enough thirst for it. I think this will happen eventually.
Malcolm, would you watch an Event Horizon TV series?
I definitely would. Like, it would depend on who get in the cast and all that, but I'd definitely be down for it. I was actually just looking it up. There's actually a comic book sequel to Event Horizon that's out there, as well as a prequel, which are both out there. And apparently we're getting like a making of Event Horizon book coming out in September.
Event Horizon Inferno. So, and this one's set after the event. So maybe another venture out into that thing with another spaceship, kind of a thing. But yeah, we should say this movie did, though, even though we didn't get any direct follow-ups, it inspired the Dead Space video games, if anybody's played those. And there was even an animated movie, and it definitely inspired that, because it's definitely like kind of a horror spaceship, sort of a thing. It was a direct inspiration from this movie, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely has a lot of influence, and it's one of those things where it's a good example of a movie might not catch fire initially, but it's sort of gone on to have this it'd be quite important in film history, and people recite it as one of their favorite horror movies of all time, and I can see why. It's really good.
Yeah, no, and that's what I said. I think it's also because we've talked about how we don't get a lot of space horror outside of the Alien franchise. We haven't had a lot of space horror outside of that. It's kind of a rarity, and the ones we do get are kind of very low budget or very kind of quick on, like something like a Pandorum or something, like that, or there's a few like little movies that come out here and there, but not many to the scale that actually do it as well. Outside of the Alien film. So I think it's just kind of one of those unique anomalies as well that of this movie that explores some different things in space, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll shout out like one that comes to mind that's not like part of the Alien franchise that I think people should check out that we've shouted out before. But Underwater is a good is a good like space sort of Kristen Stewart, and it's really good. So I check that out. But I think it'd be cool to get more space horror that's not tied to sort of aliens and stuff like that. But and I think this is it's really good. I would recommend more people check it out. It's solid film, great filmmaking, and I wish Paul W. Anderson, you can make good films. Start doing that.
Well, we'll talk about where maybe his future is going soon. But Malcolm, you got some overall thoughts on Event Horizon as we're kind of starting to wrap it up here, and your overall review?
Nothing much more that hasn't already been said. Like, I think it's a really good sort of psychological movie that I just love a lot, and I love it on the rewatch as well. I think it still holds up, and I think it's just fantastic. So no, 100%. I think this is a ton of fun. Again, if you can get into the spirit of what it's presenting, which is just I as much as I would like a longer cut, I do like that this movie's kind of a lean and mean, like 95 minutes. I mean, there's a little bit of setup. We get there, but we get on the Event Horizon pretty quickly. We get to the horror pretty quickly after that. Like, we got a fairly condensed cast. It's not too many people. Are they as memorable as like the crew from Aliens? Not quite, but I still think they're all distinct, and we have some fun personalities here. It's not on that kind of level, but again, as just a really good sort of B horror movie, I think it has good production value overall. Yes, it has terrible 97 CGI in spots, with the liquid floating around and some things.
the black hole when he goes into that black hole vortex thing.
The vortex stuff. Yeah, when there's like little equipment floating around, it's kind of it's very CGI, a little rough. But yeah, I mean, I think a good chunk of it still holds up. The cast is good. Fishburne and Neill really carry it, and they're great. But I think the interesting part overall is, again, we don't get unique movies like this, and I think it's a good time. But Paul W.S. Anderson, again, I agree with you. I think he's capable of making really fun stuff overall when he wants to. He followed this up, just running through some of his filmography real quick. He followed this up with Soldier, which was a big bomb with Kurt Russell, if anybody remembers that one. Yeah, it was another, like, he got another $60 million to do that and made like $10 million. It was not a hit at all. And then he did a small movie called The Sight, just sort of a TV movie. But yeah, then he gets into Resident Evil, and he makes the first one of those, which I know that movie has a following. I saw it again recently. I don't think it holds up very well for me personally. But I guess some people like it. He does Alien versus Predator, which I think is fun to a degree. It's all right.
It's all right. Yeah.
It's all right. He doesn't actually direct Apocalypse or Extinction, but he produces and writes them. But he comes back to it with Afterlife, Retribution, and The Final Chapter, which I'm not a fan of any of those. Again, there's movies like Death Race. I like Death Race for what it is. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
So, and he did that Three Musketeers movie, which Zach Shelton's a big fan of, from 2011.
Yeah. No disrespect to Zach. Not a fan, but good to be you.
You know who is a fan? Tarantino's a fan. He loved that movie. It's really weird. He likes weird stuff like that sometimes, where he's just like, "This one's best movie of the year," and I'm like, maybe you were on edibles that day. I don't know. All right. He made Pompeii, which is a really bad movie.
Harrington, they tried to make Jon Snow a star outside of Game of Thrones.
That didn't go anywhere. And we talked about most recently. Unfortunately, made my worst of list In the Lost Lands with his wife as well. So
very ugly,
which was a big movie, very ugly looking movie with his wife as well. I don't know where his career goes. He doesn't have anything sort of in production on his page right now, probably because In the Lost Lands cost something in the realm of, looks like $50 million and made $6 million, so that's not good.
His career trajectory reminds me of Roland Emmerich, where it's like you're capable of making really cool, like, look at budget movies, and then you've sort of you've kind of like trickled away your goodwill for too long with making bad movies. And then so studios would be like, nah, I really don't think we should, if I give you money, we're going to lose money. So it's like, there's just less and less confidence in him. But it's just sad because there's a good movie. I think there's a good movie in Roland Emmerich. There's a good movie in Paul Hansen. I think it's just
okay. This might not turn out too well either. Apparently, his next project, I don't know if it'll come out, or this is the next one that is apparently in development, is another House of the Dead movie. The Uwe Boll thing, and he's going to kind of redo it. Yeah.
I don't even know why you'd. Yeah. And it's like,
so he wants to do a new version of House of the Dead, which I don't know how. Again, that's another thing where, like, that game was really popular in like the 2000s. Like, is it popular 20 years later? Like,
it has much like a huge cult following, like other games. Like, like I feel like he might be just be going, hey, one of my biggest films, my breakout film was Mortal Kombat. Let me go back to my video game
and Resident Evil. Yeah, let me go back to my game.
Let me go back to my video game adaptations. Like, and that's fine, but like pick a like more established property that people.
Something more trendy, maybe. That's like more kind of in the ether right now. I feel like House of the Dead. Nobody's really kind of talking about that now. So I mean, I know what that is, but I'm not clamoring for another one of those. So we'll see how that goes. I don't have a good feeling about that one, but but Malcolm, real quick, any final thoughts about? And sorry, I had to mute you while your dogs were going, so my apologies. But any final thoughts on Sam Neill, and then you can get to your plugs and anything you want to throw out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those ones. Like he's like it's one of those ones where he's going to be like missed regardless. Like just some it's very rare you get those actors who's like can can switch between different roles like very quickly. Is like and never really does the same one multiple times in a row. And yeah, but you can find me on Tape for Productions. I host Rankin every Sunday. This week we'll be talking more about Samuel because we'll be doing top 12 Sam Neill movies. And you can also find me on my personal YouTube channel, Malcolm's Murder Media, doing Spear from the Past. And then I pop up here and there on Murder Hero Network. You're going to be seeing me next week is doing my top 64 music artists, and I'll also be on the recast for Independence Day.
All right, sounds good. Richie, any final thoughts on Sam Neill, and then your plugs, man?
Sam Neill, just a legend and cinema legend, and just a huge loss to the acting world, and he has great presence on screen, and I think he left behind a huge legacy. So it was great to talk about one of his great performances in a great film. As far as where you can find me, I've got a second round match in the Louise Bub farewell tournament on the on What We Love Horror channel coming up here soon. I'm going to be on Jordan Anderson's from the show he does, the funniest comedies from best to worst, ranking those be on the Sunday. You can find us here in a few minutes on Lonely Marks, where we will run down Redemption. Did I get it right this time? Redemption.
AEW Redemption. Yes. Although I wouldn't blame you for forgetting the title, because it's going to be a very forgettable pay-per-view, it seems like. But okay.
Which is very rare for AEW, which is it wouldn't surprise me if this is a one and done. I don't know if it's going to be on next. So we're going to that, and then looking ahead to SummerSlam and talking news. That, and other than that, just shit, and you'll find me here and there on on ASAT and all that, clippity sometimes when my computer works. Fucking that was a frustrating fucking day. And Jeopardy and all that stuff. So all good.
Sam. He's definitely going to be missed. Just a really warm-hearted, cool actor. And again, as a horror fan, I appreciate that. A lot of actors start out in horror. I've always argued everybody starts in horror. It seems like most big-time actors have one kind of early in their filmography, but don't really go back to it. And I love that Sam didn't mind going back to it, and throughout his career, whether it was early on he did Possession and Omen 3 the same year, and then does In the Mouth of Madness and Event Horizon both in the 90s. He does Daybreakers in 2009, just this kind of fun vampire movie. He wasn't afraid to just go back and dabble in horror a little bit, which I appreciated, and bounce between that and little TV shows and big blockbuster movies. So just a super versatile guy. And just a nice presence every time I would see him on screen. So I'm going to go back and watch some more of his stuff kind of over the next year or so and dig into a little more of his filmography. But what a great actor. So and just a lot of fun to watch. As far as me, you can find me mostly here on the Movie Hero Network, hosting a lot of the shows. We got Tier Ranker Tournament Fights. We got Tier Ranker this week. Movies to start with letter I. Speaking of Sam Neill, In the Mouth of Madness. So maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow night on the eyes. And then I'll be hosting that recast that Malcolm mentioned for Independence Day. So we'll talk about that. Speaking of I movies as well, Independence Day. So got a few things on the deck there. And then what's that?
I think Malcolm's pick of Pauly Shore as a president is weird.
We'll see how it pans out. You do get a chance to pitch it. So if he can make the right pitch, Pauly Shore as Russell, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe
the drunken crop duster, maybe now. I mean, he's older. Maybe.
The question is, will Glenn Powell pop up.
Well, Glenn Powell will get casted as the president, yeah, in that
Yeah.
movie because he gets casted on every other recast. But yeah, so you can mostly find me doing that stuff. Yeah, we have a Facebook group called the Movie Hero Network, which you can join if you like and see a lot of our content creators and their shows over there. And I'll link the Lonely March Wrestling podcast over there as well. So yeah, you can find us talking some wrestling here in just a little bit. We'll hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get to just spin the wheel again. Again, we don't like doing tribute episodes only because it means somebody passed away and we don't like that. But we do what we can to honor people when it does happen. Sorry to any fans of Brenda Fricker. I know I'm sure a really nice lady and a good actress, but not exactly a high name, to do a tribute episode for her.
I mean, yeah, no disrespect, but yeah, like you, pretty much most people just know her as like the pigeon lady from Home Alone 2, and it's
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like you can't really talk about her like a lot, her illustrious career. So yeah, look, and Home Alone 2 is on the wheel. We'll spin it eventually.
We'll spin it there. We might even spin an Angels in the Outfield because she's in there. It's probably on the wheel somewhere as well. So, maybe we'll talk about her. I don't know if anybody has My Left Foot on there, the one she won an Oscar for on the wheel. But, again, no disrespect. Great actress, but sorry, it's not going to happen. Also, R.I.P. Kaylee Hoddle, the girl, speaking of Godzilla vs. Kong, the girl from Godzilla vs. Kong who was killed tragically in a car accident as well. So, one of the better parts of those movies. So yeah, a few people that unfortunately have passed on. We won't do full episodes for them, but wanted to give them a shout out for their career. So yeah, we'll see. We'll probably spin the wheel after Tier Ranker tomorrow night, and we'll see what will be next on the docket for Wheel of Movies, and we'll get back to talking about whatever comes up. So that's the fun of the show, is we never know what we're going to talk about next. So good times around. So yeah, we'll wrap it up there, and we'll get out of here for the evening. So thanks everybody for watching and joining us. We appreciate it. Give us a follow. But for Malcolm Lay, our special guest tonight, thanks Malcolm. For Richie Goodacre, I am your host Austin Pez Howell tonight. We'll see you guys next time on the Wheel of Movies. Bye.